Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it off! He picked it off! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I am Sterling Holmes. Oh, baby, do we have a special guest just for you. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, chiefsdigest.com. Matt, how you doing?
I am doing well, Sterling. I don't know how special I am, but I'm definitely a guest.
Matt, you're special to me, okay? You're very special. You're near and dear in my heart.
Well, and I have to get my Sterling Holmes exposure for the week. So since you're not going to be hanging out with me on Friday, got to do it on Tuesday.
I got to duck you. I'm ducking you Friday. For those that don't know, I do Sports Radio 810, the midday co-host, and Matt Derrick has a spot every single Friday. So normally I'd be getting double of Matt Derrick, but I only get one Matt Derrick quota per week. It's in my contract somewhere. Doesn't matter where it's from, but I only get one Matt Derrick. So I'm sorry. You missed me on Friday.
And I just want you to know, I still have, it's on my laptop. It's not on my desktop, which I'm at right now, but I still have my Power Ballads document pulled up of all the Power Ballads that I want to talk with you about someday. So
there's no man who loves Power Ballads more than Matt Derrick. I think I'm second. I'm second on the worldwide list. But
I think we're solid there. Yeah.
You come in at number one. Before we get into a whole bunch of Chiefs talk, which, oh my gosh, so much to get into, Matt. I mean, it's crazy. What I want to do first is let everyone know about DraftKings. DraftKings is offering a new offer right here. It's a no sweat bet sign up bonus for new users. New customers who sign up with code Arrowhead and deposit at least $5 will receive a no sweat bet up to $1,500 on their first wager. This means if you place a first bet of $50 and you lose, you'll receive a $50 credit in bonus bets straight into your account, up to $1,500. You will also receive one single game parlay reward every single day. Using our code Arrowhead not only gets you these great bonuses, but it also directly supports our podcast. So if you've been considering signing up for DraftKings, make sure to use the code Arrowhead to maximize those first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly and check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. All right, Matt. So much stuff has happened. It's insane. So much stuff has happened. So we're going to speculate. We're in the speculation game, all right?
Be for what you ask for, Sterling, because if you're going to complain about it being quiet in June, you're just asking for somebody to go out there and see if they can go faster than 119 miles per hour or find another state where marijuana is not legal.
Fair. You know what? Quiet's good this time. All quiet on the Midwestern front. Speculation time, and this is going to be a broad speculation here, all right? With Justin Jefferson getting the ridiculous contract, $140 million, $110 million guaranteed. What does that mean for the Bengals? We can get into that in a moment. But this almost screams to me, the Chiefs are done playing in the overinflated wide receiver market. I think Justin Jefferson is he is worth it. I think he's probably the best wide receiver in football. I get all that. But for me, what I'm looking at here is the Chiefs aren't going to play in that market. The market of they already have the best quarterback in the world who's no longer on a rookie contract. They tried the Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and that's great and all, but what happens to your defense? It is atrocious. When all these teams around the NFL are going to start paying their quarterback and then start paying a wide receiver like a quarterback, well, one place is going to suffer. Is it offensive line? Is it the defense? Is it every other spot? But I think the Chiefs are done. They've learned their lesson, and I think you're going to start seeing this going forward of a lot of piecemealing at wide receiver rather than paying a 25-plus mil dude for one spot. That doesn't seem like it's going to be the case going forward.
Well, and that goes back to, with a lot of the talk about you saw that people were having about maybe the Chiefs trying to trade for Justin Jefferson. Well, one reason why they wouldn't is exactly this. I mean, this is why you don't trade for Justin Jefferson because you got to give him that kind of a contract. But two is that if the Chiefs were interested in paying a receiver that much, they wouldn't have let go of Tyreek Hill in the first place. So, I mean, if the Chiefs have a receiver right now, if Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy is to grow into the kind of receiver that can get a $30 million contract, do I expect them to get a $30 million deal in Kansas City? No, I mean, I think that the Chiefs are going to trade him off for assets, and they're going to do exactly what they did with Tyreek Hill. I mean, they're going to get back a Trent McDuffie's and like George Karlaftis's and rebuild their team. It comes down to a team philosophy about where you spend your money and what you want to put into it. And I think that the Chiefs have absolutely, and Brett Veach have made it clear through their actions that they don't believe that there's value in putting in $25 million plus into a single player at the wide receiver spot. And until a $25 million receiver plus wins anything, I mean, you can't really argue with him.
Yeah, it's almost like the running back position, right? This is becoming the way of the running back position, where also, at least in my opinion, there are so many great wide receivers right now, or at least really good wide receivers right now. You're sitting here going, why would I pay $35 million for one of the best when I can still get a really good wide receiver for $20 million and use that $15 million somewhere else? Now I can help out the defense. And I will also say the Chiefs are in a unique position when you have a quarterback like Mahomes who can elevate everyone. Can Joe Burrow do this? For example, if Joe Burrow did not have Jamar Chase, what does that Bengals offense look like? Josh Allen, we're going to get a really good test case right now. What does Josh Allen look like without Stephon Diggs, without Gabe Davis, with, is it Curtis Samuel now, basically their de facto wide receiver one? I mean, now we're going to see Josh Allen have to do what Mahomes had to do last year with that wide receiver core. Very, very similar. I think the Chiefs are almost in a unique position, and this is another advantage for them that I don't think any other team in the NFL can really afford to have happen.
Well, and it is. And to me, I mean, you have choices. Everything about it has choices. And Brett Veach, I mean, I can't argue with his prioritizing, because look at it, is, to your point, is Hollywood Brown, is the difference between him and Justin Jefferson $24 million a year on the field? No. I mean, if you took the $24 million that you could be paying, and you have Hollywood Brown already, and you took that $24 million that you could be putting into Justin Jefferson, I mean, you could have 3 Hollywood Browns instead of 1 Justin Jefferson. I think I'd rather have that. And, why do you put the money into Chris Jones? Well, because Chris Jones is a unicorn. You're not going to be able to put $30 million into anybody that is a Chris Jones. You're not. For $15 million, you're not getting 50% of Chris Jones. You're getting like 25% of Chris Jones. And so that's why you put the money there. I mean, you have some premium positions. And I mean, I don't think that wide receiver is a premium position. I mean, defensive line, left tackle, those are premium positions. But the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl without a 1,000-yard receiver, with a collection of just not even at that point in their careers, number 1 receivers. I mean, the Chiefs have proven that you don't have to have that to win. So what do you need to win? Well, it's, to a degree, it's traditional football. You got to have the quarterback position fixed. Okay, that that cures a lot of sins. Then you got to protect that guy, and then we got to be able to get after the other guy. I mean, that's what football's based on, Sterling. I mean, that's still it.
When this comes down to it, especially from the Bengals' perspective, what do they do? Because their owner is not as cash rich as other organizations, right? Even the Chiefs, for all the talk about the locker room and stuff, well, Clark Hunt still has the oil money to work with. Shad Khan's got the cars. What is it, Toyota? Or I forget what company is, the bumpers, if you will. Almost every single owner, they have a side hustle, or should I say side hustling is owning the team. That's not the case for the Bengals. This is what they do. Their job is owning the Bengals. So when they see $110 million guaranteed, what that means is the Vikings have to put $110 million guaranteed into escrow. That money is now gone. Can the Bengals even afford to do something like that? Because for perspective here, when they gave Joe Burrow that contract, what happened to the field? Became Paycom or Paycor or whatever it was. They had to get a sponsor for that so they can get some extra money to pay Joe Burrow. What's going to happen now when Jamar Chase goes, I saw what Justin Jefferson got. I want that. No, you know what? I want that and give me an extra $1. So you're looking at the exact same contract is going to be what Jamar is asking for. T. Higgins already has unrest. Trey Hendrickson already has unrest. What do the Bengals do?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I haven't looked at really what their cash situation is, because that's a pretty good indication about what teams are going to do. I mean, it depends on the club. I mean, the Chiefs are what you would call a cap to cash team, which is that they're typically, in most years, what they're spending in cash is going to be equivalent to what the cap is. They're not a team that, if the cap is $240 million, the Chiefs really don't want to be a team that's going to go out and spend $320 million in cash that year. I mean, that's more of the bigger market teams, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they're not afraid to do it. There's some teams that are not afraid to spend that kind of amount of money in any single season. The Chiefs, even if, we're talking about, we don't really talk about the cap that way. The Chiefs are one of those teams that they have the cap as a budget. So I haven't looked real closely about where the Bengals are. I mean, you can tell, though. I mean, absolutely about where they are as far as, how much cash that they have available, how much cash they have into the roster this year. I mean, I think this deal with Jefferson's absolutely terrible for the Bengals, because I don't see how, with the way that they usually manage their roster, they're going to be able to keep both these guys long term. It's just the reality. And especially if you get an opportunity for either one of these guys to be able to test free agency, it's the same thing that would have happened with Chris Jones. If Chris Jones had tested free agency, he was gone, because there was a team that was going to overpay for him. I mean, there was no doubt about it. And we've seen it. I mean, it fits into my Sterling. You and I guess really haven't talked about it. We talked about it on the radio a little bit, but my philosophy of there's always 8 teams in the NFL that don't know what they're doing. There'd be one of those 8 teams that would be willing to overpay for a Jamar Chase. It would be able to overpay for a T. Higgins. I mean, and I always say that in the sense that, because even though I like both those players, it's overpaying in the sense that you got a lot of things that you need to pay for. And if you don't have the quarterback right, to me, it doesn't matter if you got a $35 million receiver. Because if you don't have the quarterback right, doesn't matter how much you're paying a receiver. You could have a 10-cent receiver, Sterling, and it's going to be the exact same as a $35 million receiver.
Well, as we saw last year with the Chiefs. Now, again, you can make the case that, at least for me, I think the Vikings are doing the right thing because you have a quarterback on a rookie deal. That's what you do. I think teams are wising up to the sense of, they saw the Panthers last year, right? The Panthers last year, no weapons. What's Bryce Young? We really don't know. Is he atrocious? He might be. But also, he had nothing to throw to. Adam Thielen, at his age, the red zone threat, only Adam Thielen? No, that's not a good indicator of what Bryce Young is. Even, I think, the Bears, I think, are the perfect example of this. They learned. The Bears said, okay, we basically screwed Justin Fields. We gave him no help. Yeah, I don't think Justin Fields is a great quarterback personally, but they didn't give him any sense of what he could be. They had no idea. So what do they do now? Well, they draft a quarterback, draft Caleb Williams, they bring in Keenan Allen, they have DJ Moore, and then they draft Rome Odunze. Well, now you should have a good understanding of what Caleb Williams is. You look at J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings go, okay, we could trade or get rid of Justin Jefferson. We're probably not going anywhere this year. But then how do we ever determine what J.J. McCarthy is? We won't know until we give him a wide receiver. And it makes sense. You might as well do it that way. The Texans did, and they, I don't want to say got lucky, but C.J. Stroud had weapons as a rookie quarterback, and they went all the way fairly deep into the playoffs. That's what you want. The Vikings, I think, are hoping the same thing of, okay, well, maybe J.J. McCarthy is this year's C.J. Stroud. I don't think so. But if you're the Vikings, you have to think like that and surround him with weapons. I think that the Bears were the perfect example of what not to do. And now they basically tripled down saying, we ain't going to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, they're still not exactly doing it the way that I would want to do it. We'll see. I mean, how quickly they throw their quarterback into the deep end to let this simmer. and give up on it, because that was the thing that the Chiefs did, is that, they had a guy like Alex Smith around, which was fortunate, but Andy Reid had a strategy. I mean, there was absolutely no doubt when he got to Kansas City, there was a plan, and Alex Smith was part of that plan. Was Andy Reid always going to, try and get his quarterback? Absolutely. I mean, they were looking at it every year. I mean, in another one of the other 14 million other multiverses, maybe Johnny Manziel was that guy. The Chiefs get him, and Andy Reid turns him into the next Patrick Mahomes. I don't know, but the Chiefs were looking for their next guy, and the plan all along was to be able to have a system where you're dropping a quarterback into an established team, and that's what I think a lot of teams miss out on. And I think that, hey, there's a lot of things that I think NFL teams could learn from watching what the Chiefs did with Mahomes. And there's a couple parts of it to me. I mean, one was certainly the coaching that they surrounded him with, because they gave him an assistant quarterbacks coach who basically was his caddy all year to follow him around. So he had that. Mike Kafka, eventually offensive coordinator. His job was was Patrick Mahomes' coach in 2017. They had Matt Nagy. They had, Brad Childress. They had, have Andy Reid. I mean, they had all of this coaching support around him. All of these guys who are great offensive minds, that he can pick and be around and everything like that. And in addition to Alex Smith. So that's one approach that you can go about it. But the other is, once again, to do it the Chiefs way, which is, climb and get your team to where they're at least a 500 team. You can win 9 games. Surround them with that kind of talent that you can do with a game manager quarterback, with a replacement level quarterback, an average level NFL quarterback. And I think Alex Smith was better than that. And that's why the Chiefs were a playoff team with Alex Smith. But if you're a 2-14 team, 2-15 team now, and you drop a rookie into there, you're still a 2-15 team. And you're just hoping it works out. I think that's what the Texans kind of did a little bit, and they got lucky. I mean, I'll say that they got lucky.
Oh no,
because I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens. I'm right now, Sterling. I am in the show me state. I need to see one more year of CJ Stroud. I like his chances. There's a lot to like, but I need to see him back it up.
Part of me is because I was so high on the Texans last year and no one believed me. I said CJ Stroud is the best quarterback coming out of the draft. I mean, yes, they got lucky to an extent, better than I expected, right? They were even better than maybe the highest guy in the Texans expected. But I thought they were building that the right way. They did it by having a solid offensive line, giving Laramie Tunsil a lot of money. We talk about premium position, right? We're talking about premium position. Laramie Tunsil, they made sure he was there. What do rookie quarterbacks typically look for first when they're trying to throw the ball? A tight end. So what do? They brought in Dalton Schultz, I think a very underrated tight end. And then they gave him some weapons. Yes, some rookies. Yes, they hit on some, Tank Dell and Nico Collins, but they surrounded him with some weapons. They gave him a chance. And then CJ Stroud exploded onto the scene. I am with you. Does he back that up, or is it Jalen Hurts, where his second year as a starter, he takes a step back? We'll find out. But my point was, they doubled down this offseason too. They brought in Stephon Diggs. They brought in Joe Mixon. The defensive line, they brought in Danielle Hunter, Danico Autry. They had some issue at cornerback. They brought in Jeff Okudah. Like, I love what the Texans did, again, with a quarterback on a rookie deal. And oh, by the way, talking about premium positions, they drafted Will Anderson. They got their guy defensively to build around. I love what the Texans have done the past 2 years. And maybe, again, because I was kind of calling it last year. So I feel good finally getting something right, Matt. I got to pump my chest out for getting it right instead of missing one for the 1,000th time. So that could be part of it, too. I do, though, Matt, want to talk to you about breakout candidates. If you're wanting to talk breakout candidates this year for the Chiefs, I would love to talk breakout candidates with you.
Let's do it.
Okay. I think the one that everyone is most intrigued about is FAU. Where do you land on FAU? Let's just say hypothetically here, I set the over-under sack total at 5. Let's just say 5. I know people are probably going to say, well, he was drafted he's drafted in the first round. 5 sacks, second year, drafted in the first round. What's that? Sunk cost. It's a sunk cost. He's on your roster. Yeah. You got to figure out what you have in him. If I set the over-under at 5, where are you going with FAU?
Ooh, 5 is a tough number. I mean, I say this is probably one of the guys and people that's been the highest on FAU all along because I felt like last year was going to be a redshirt year for him always, and I feel that hey, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding about Felix and where he was taken and what kind of a player he is and what the expectation should be. When you're the 32nd pick in the draft, you know, you're not always the first round pick. And this is a guy that had a second round grade. Most of the teams would say he's a second round player, but we're treating him like a first round talent. And that's, I think, tough on the kid. He should be considered a second round talent. That's what he was. On top of that, he's an extremely young second round talent. On top of that, he was an injured second round talent that you knew had an injury when you drafted him. So all of that together to me was always, hey, you get anything out of Felix in year one, it's a bonus. And the fact that they had to play him early and when Charles Omenihu was out, I thought they got reasonable production out of him in the rotation when they were there. They clearly, didn't want to overexpose him. They wanted to make sure they brought him along slowly, not overuse him, especially with the injury that he did have. So, yeah, I mean, now you're coming into this year, the expectation should be higher. But remember what he's in, what system he's in. I mean, he's got two guys in front of him who are going to get double-digit sacks. So, there's only so many sacks to go around. So if Chris Jones is getting 10-plus sacks, George Karlaftis is getting 10-plus sacks, it's going to be a little bit harder for Felix. And then I'm going to throw Mike Dana in there too, because if you put the number at 5 for me on an over-under for sacks, I'll take over 5 for Mike Dana. I mean, he's a quality rotational piece, and he's going to play a lot, especially early, because once again, you're not going to have Charles Omenihu early. Felix is probably going to be your number 3 guy. I don't think that's a huge problem if he's your number 3 guy. Is your number 3 guy guaranteed to get you 5 sacks? Not necessarily. I mean, it can get close. I mean, if he has 4 sacks, depending on the way he plays and the rest of his game, that might not be a bad year. Could he have 8 sacks and be really deficient in pass coverage and maybe the liability in the run game? And therefore, hey, 8 sacks are great, but you're wishing that the rest of his game was better. That's always possible too. I don't know what's going to happen, Sterling, but if less than 5 sacks wouldn't be a disappointment for me. I think he's capable of more than that though. And I am high on him having a really good year this year.
Okay. Let's go to the defensive side. Stick with the defensive side, I should say, and that's Leo Chenal. Leo's an interesting one for me because I think the talent is there. The athleticism is insane. Willie Gay Jr. is gone. So I think we all expect to see him get a massive uptick in snaps. I think he gets a good uptick in snaps. But my concern is he's not a pass coverage linebacker. He's not a linebacker you throw in on third down a la Willie Gay Jr., right? So where do you see Leo Chenal fitting in? He showed up big on the biggest stages, which gives me so much hope, but it almost feels like he's more of a matchup-dependent linebacker, right? Like against the 49ers, love him. Against the Eagles, love him. Against teams that run the ball primarily, I love him. He's great getting downhill, stopping the run. I wouldn't even mind seeing him line up at edge a few times. Where do you see Leo Chenal this season having an impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think Leo is what he is, and I don't think that's a bad thing because he's really good at what he is. He played almost double the number of snaps in his second year from his first year, and playing about 40% of snaps. That's about. I think he can handle a bigger workload. Maybe it gets up to 50, but once again, you start talking about, hey, the Chiefs are a substitution team. They're going to play with only 2 linebackers on the field quite a bit. The vast majority of that time, barring injuries, I mean, if you're playing with 2 linebackers, it's going to be Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill. So, you're going to only see Leo probably in a lot of base, a lot of passing situations, opportunities where they can put him on the ball and he can go after the quarterback. I mean, that's one of the areas that I really want to see, more of Leo. We saw him last year in that spot. He played really well. I mean, I want to see him lined up out wide and coming in as a blitzer and as a pass rusher because I think just letting Leo play downhill is his best skill. Like you mentioned it. I mean, his dropping back is not his strength. That's not what you want him doing.
Can he grow there, though, Matt? Because he is so damn athletic. Like, you look at the RAS numbers and just, like, everything about Leo screams athleticism. Is that something that he can grow in, or do you just think, you know what, don't worry about that, let him focus on what he's good at?
I think he can grow into it because, he didn't play on the ball in college pretty much at all. I mean, so he's got that skill set in his background. I mean, he played a lot of that in college. Instead, he got to the NFL and, the Chiefs wanted him to play a little bit more downhill. So he spent a little bit more time learning about how to pass rush, how to play on the ball, how to play on the line of scrimmage a little bit more. And, so he's got that ability, but it's going to come into, what are the opportunities? How much do you want him to play? Because once again, I mean, it's going to be if you're playing in a substitution, do you want Leo out there dropping back in package, or do you pass coverage, or do you want Drew Tranquil? I mean, I think you want Drew Tranquil, and that can change obviously with injuries. If Drew or Nick Bolton gets banged up, and then you are looking for somebody who can be out there and maybe as a 3-down linebacker, are you choosing Leo over Cam Jones or Jack Cochran? Probably, because he's a better linebacker. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So I still think that same kind of role that he played last year, like 40 to 50%, given the Chiefs penchant for sub packages, I think is a good amount of snaps for him. Keeps him from getting overused. He can play more 100% downhill, fast and free without having to worry about getting worn out. But I mean, your mileage may vary, Sterling. I mean, I could see him playing a bigger role and succeeding at it. But I think if he plays a bigger role in that, then I think it's probably because you've seen an injury this year.
Yeah, I'm just such a massive fan of Leo Chenal, and I just sometimes have a hard time seeing where he fits in. I think both can be true. I'm sitting here just expecting Leo every time he's on the field to make just all these impact plays, and he does in the limited amount of snaps he gets. It's just hard, again, when you have such a sub-package focused defense. It's hard to find room for 3 linebackers, and the Chiefs, quite frankly, have 3 damn good linebackers, and it's why I think the Chiefs were okay letting Willie Gay Jr. walk and go to New Orleans. They knew Leo is waiting right there in the wings. Let's talk secondary now. A lot of guys we can talk to as far as breakout candidates. I can get to that in just one moment as far as who you think your favorite is, but 2 names have stood out to me: Jamari Connor, Nick Jones. The reason being, they've been name dropped multiple times by multiple different players and coordinators. That to me stands out. When they're being brought up unprompted by Trent McDuffie, I think Nick Bolton brought up Nick Jones as well. You're just sitting here kind of surprised, like, okay, that's interesting. What have those 2 guys shown you? Who you expect starts in this slot? Where do they fit in? I think those 2 names to me are some of the more intriguing ones, just based on the names being brought up by the players.
Yeah, I almost don't think of Chamari as a breakout candidate, because I think he broke out last year to me. I mean, as well as he played and his multiple roles. I mean, I did not see him, being a guy who was going to be coming in and playing in the slot as much as he did. That was really impressive to me. And he was able, especially after the Brian Cook injury, he was able to, then pick up a little bit more snaps, playing in a couple of different positions. Now that they've really got him playing in 3 different spots, and it's going to be interesting because Brian Cook is still sidelined. He hasn't been a full go yet, and probably won't be until this team gets to training camp. I'm going to be really interested to see. There was an outside chance that Brian Cook might might see some snaps, might get some reps during the mini camp. And if he does, then he's going to be absolutely a little bit ahead of schedule. But if not, you're talking about Brian Cook coming in to training camp. Not that he can't be ready, but it does beg the question, is Chamari going to be the full-time starter in front of Cook, and Cook be the guy that rotates in just because he's missed a lot of time and he's coming back from injury, and maybe the Chiefs don't want to dump 100% of the snap workload on him? Connor can play all those positions. I mean, absolutely. He's proven that. So I think you're absolutely going to see more of him. Like I said, I don't even know if I can count him as a breakout player, because I think he did it last year. Safety position, I think probably Jaden Hicks is the one that I'm really intrigued about as a rookie, because I think he can play a lot. But he's going to be the alter ego of Chamari Connor, because the one place that maybe Chamari is going to be, probably more of a free guy, and a slot guy, nickel guy, or a dime guy, or nickel guy rather. And, Jaden Hicks is probably going to be more of a dime linebacker type role, and, more of a strong safety role. He's going to be playing in the box, playing a little bit more physical. Hey, you want one of them rushing the quarterback or, blitzing the quarterback? Which one is it? It's going to be Jaden Hicks. And, and I had a really interesting conversation I think it was with my guy Nick Jacobs over on our 41 is the Mic podcast, and it could have been on our Q&A, which we do every Tuesday. So if you want more of me later, you can get more of me on the YouTube channel. You get the promo there, Sterling.
Everyone wants more of your generous proportions.
Jaden Hicks is huge. So if you want Jaden Hicks playing a spy and taking on Josh Allen, I mean, he's the one guy that can do it. And I'm with you. I mean, when you're talking about corners, Nick Jones, because I think he's going to get a shot to play the slot, play a little bit more nickel corner. That's a great candidate. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to give you another name because Josh Williams might be a candidate too. Because even though he's been around a while, Josh is the player that had the highest upside really coming out of that draft, that 2022 draft, as far as those 5 corners that the Chiefs got, because he was the guy that had, maybe the lowest amount of college experience because he went to a smaller college, didn't face as much of a tough uphill challenge as maybe some of the other guys did, playing in bigger conferences, playing in bigger games. He had a lot of upside, just a ton of it. So, that to me is a guy because sometimes, it's not first year, second year. Sometimes it's second year to third year when it really starts to click. And for Josh Williams, with all the tools and the talent he's got, I mean, this is the year. So, I mean, it's to do a little bit of now or never for him to step into a starting role. If he's going to do it, I think now's the opportunity. He can. We'll see if he does it. But I haven't given up on him being a better player than he's been already.
Yeah, that'd be my guy. If I had to have one guy defensively to have the quote unquote breakout, it would be Josh Williams. I was such a fan when he was drafted. I like the idea of him getting paired with Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo, and he's been good. He's been solid, if you will. I think solid's probably the word to use, solid. I think he can go from solid to really damn good this year. Like, I think he has that chance. He has the opportunity to, obviously, especially on the outside, because he's not someone who I think is going to play in the slot, right? If McDuffie, they say he's going to play outside, I think he plays outside the majority of the time, but I can still see him lining up in the slot a good amount, right? Because we know Trent McDuffie is electric. We know he's a first-team All-Pro corner when he's playing in the slot. Before we move on to the offensive side of the ball, any other names? The Kelvin Joseph, who's been getting his name dropped a good amount during by the coaching staff right now. Najee Johnson, Kamal Hayden, Jalen Watson, who played last year with, what was it, a torn labrum? Was that what it was? A torn labrum.
Yeah.
Any of those other guys, Echo Boydo, right? I think Echo Boydo, limited. But I loved him in training camp. I loved him getting that opportunity. And then all of a sudden, kind of shining in the preseason. Very, very slender, but dude is not afraid of those next tier guys. What do you see?
Yeah, the one I think I'm most interested in and really kind of seeing is Cam Jones, because this is a guy that's got a lot of athleticism, and Brendan Daly has just, I think, really been underrated as once he moved to linebackers and helping to develop some guys. And because you look at this Chiefs linebackers core, and they invested a couple of draft picks in Nick Bolton and Leo Chanel. He's gotten a lot out of them. I mean, he has made them into the players that the Chiefs needed them to be. But then you look at it, and it's really then. I mean, they took a flyer of a free agency on Drew Tranquil. I mean, he was a guy that was just off everybody's radar, kind of fell into the Chiefs' lap as a best year of his career playing for Brendan Daly. But then you look at all these other guys, and the Chiefs have a deep linebacker core. I mean, you look at even a Darius Harris. I mean, the Chiefs have had these guys that have been undrafted that they've been able to get to produce. Now you got a guy like Cam Jones who actually has a ton of athleticism. I mean, this isn't a try-hard guy. This isn't a Jack Cochran or a Cole Christensen. It's just
Anthony Hitchens.
It's not a guy that just is a technical guy, or a strong guy. I mean, this is a guy, a player who's got a lot of athleticism. He's got a lot of Willie Gay to him, more so than anybody else. So that's a guy that I think that if he gets an opportunity this year, maybe he can be the one that kind of, says, okay, wait a minute. Maybe this is the guy that can replace Willie Gay. Maybe he's going to be out there in some situations where you would normally see Willie. I don't know. I mean, I'll be interested. But yeah, the other thing is that we're not talking about this time of year because the pads aren't on. So we're not talking about defensive line. So I'm really interested to see once the pads do come on, what are the Chiefs having like a guy like Neil Farrell? They went and got him for a reason, but it was very difficult for him to obviously fit in last year. They never really, saw an opportunity to get him out there. So with that year of experience of learning the Spagnuolo defense, working with Joe Cullen, what kind of a player is he now? Because the Chiefs obviously liked something last year to go ahead and bring him in. So that's the one guy I'm really interested to see if he is somebody that can contribute this year. There's some others too. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys on this team that, could end up surprising us, but when you're talking about like in the trenches for sure, the guys with, that we're not going to know about until August. I mean, Farrell's an interesting guy to me.
Yeah, until you and myself were down there in the heat. Mostly you. I'll go a couple days. I'll go when I need to show my face. You'll be down there every single day. You're almost always the first one there. For those that don't know, Matt Derrick is he's a grinder. If you don't follow him on the X at Matt Derrick, you're doing Chiefs fandom wrong. This guy has the best up-to-date information. He goes every single day in the heat of the summer, and you're thriving when you do that. I just go like the last day and the first day, so that way it looks like I'm doing something important.
I'm the worst person in the world, Sterling, when it comes to showing up anywhere on time. This from seeing me every Friday when I come into the show. So that for me. I make training camp is my Everest. That's like every year. Training camp is like I made that my mission. It's like, hey, this is going to be my 18 days, 21 days, however long camp ends up being every year. I'm like, this is going to be it. I'm going to show up. I'm going to beat everybody there. I'm going to be early. I'm going to get it all that time of day. I'm going to beat all the traffic, do everything. That's when I'm going to win. Because, my marathon skill is not great, but I can sprint through training camp.
It's impressive. Yeah. When it comes to Friday radio show, it's did someone text Matt Derrick? Is he showing up? Is he showing up today? Is he going to be here? And then, of course, training camp's like 5 a.m. Matt Derrick, they're just waiting for all the players to come out. It's damn impressive. Question here from Gary says, do you see any obvious holes in the team? Goes, I know the left tackle and the unproven commodity at cornerback. Someone's going to have to step up, but anything in particular? Do you see any holes, glaring needs for this roster?
Yeah, that seems to be the two that most people talk about. And I'll be honest, I have zero concerns about corner. Because I think the Chiefs are going to have a really difficult time, filling out the last couple of spots because I think guys are going to make it difficult for them.
Okay,
they've got too many options.
Year, Matt, they said that about last year with wide receiver. That's
I know we were saying
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But we were talking about, saying, hey, okay, should the Chiefs keep eight wide receivers with Amir Smith-Marset being the eighth one, who's a journey. I like Amir Smith-Marset, nice guy and everything, but he's a journeyman who's never really done anything. Chiefs, their eighth best corner on this team, could be like an Echo Boydo. Who's not a journeyman who hasn't done anything, but just a young guy that's an up and comer who could have a lot of potential. He could be their eighth best, and they'd still have some guys behind him that has some potential. So, and I just trust Dave Merritt with what he's able to get out of these guys. They've got what they have at corner that they didn't have at receiver is that they got a lot of system guys. Kelvin Joseph might be one of those guys. He's a journeyman who hasn't really put it together, but he's looking good right now. Is that because he's in shorts and, you can't touch anybody and playing 7-on-7 is just kind of second nature for him? I don't know. We're going to find out when the pads come on. But if it turns out that he's just a guy that really, really fits in well with Steve Spagnuolo's system and with Dave Merritt's system, maybe this is the home he's been waiting for. I don't know. We're going to find out. But left tackle, that's the one, if for no other reason than, right now we can only base it on what the Chiefs are showing us. And what the Chiefs have shown us so far in these 2 days that have been open so far in OTAs, and it's obviously, hey, there's a few other days that have not been open, so we're not getting the whole picture here. And I love the kid. Chu Godric is a great guy, great developmental project. But if he's getting your number one first team reps, I got some questions about the position. So that's why I would saying right now, I think it's more likely that the Chiefs go sign Donovan Smith now than I did 2 weeks ago. We'll see, but I have some concerns. We'll just leave it at that for right now, Sterling. I have some concerns, but once again, wait until the pads come on because we don't know anything about any of these tackles until then.
Yeah, very good point there. Brian Gales says I'm assuming Nico Remigio is my offensive player to watch. Could move him to the slot wide receiver. What do you think? Nico Remigio. It seems like he's getting some run, got some run last year. Obviously, the injury happened. Seemed like he was going to be a special teamer, a punt returner. Now with the new kickoff rules, maybe there's a better fit for him. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I've really liked him so far in the 2 practices we've seen. I mean, he's been really sharp. He looks stronger, a little bit bulkier than last year without sacrificing any speed. So I think he definitely got the leg work in last year when he was returning from that separated shoulder. So that was some good work that he did. And the best thing you can say about a wide receiver this time of year is, if they get opportunities, which he's getting right now because like Hollywood wasn't there last week. Kadarius Toney hasn't been there. Xavier Worthy has been, watching with the hamstring issue. It means he's moved up 3 spots on the depth chart some days, and he's going to get more opportunities, and he's taking advantage of them. But once again, I mean, I've learned my lesson, Sterling. You do not let any wide receiver impress you in June in shorts because. I mean, once again, a decent receiver, but Demarcus Robinson was the MVP of June for like 4 years in a row. So, do not let receivers because if Frankie Hammond's jersey is hanging in the Hall of Fame for training camp for a reason. Because you should be able to shine this time of year. Nico is doing it, which I'm really impressed about. So, but let's see if he can back it up.
When it comes to offense, I don't know if there's necessarily a breakout candidate, but I'll open this up to you. Right, because we don't think it's going to be Justin Ross. I'm sorry, Justin Ross stands who somehow they're still out there. It's incredible. Who's the guy that steps up? Like I think people are looking at like maybe Noah Gray. I've heard a 1 or 2 smatterings of Irv Smith Jr. Obviously, Jared Wiley's fun as a rookie tight end. Running back, I think there's wide open at RB3, obviously. There's occasionally a Tony supporter, occasionally very few Sky Moore supporters out there. Who do you think it is offensively that steps up?
I mean, I think it's really hard to put up yards and be productive in a Andy Reid offense in your first year. So, hey, you'd probably bet on a Rashee Rice. I mean, Rashee Rice was great last year, when he had to. I mean, the Chiefs didn't have a lot of options, and he stepped up and he played well. I mean, is Rashee Rice on his way based on what he did last year to being a 1,600-yard receiver? I don't know if I can say that, but could he step it up to the point where he's a 1,000-yard receiver? That's not a huge increase from last year, but to back it up and to do it again, especially now there's going to be some film on him, he's going to have to play better than he was last year to even match his numbers from a year ago. So he's one guy that, I mean, I think that this offense is definitely going to be focused on that. If Rashee is putting up big numbers, then this offense is probably putting up big numbers early in the season. But if you're talking about who's amongst these newcomers that might surprise you with a 400-yard season plus, and I'd even include some just guys coming back like Kadarius Toney, who hasn't done it, or for the Chiefs, or Sky Moore, who hasn't done it. I think of all these, I'd go with Jared Wiley because that kid has got the talent. I mean, he is much faster and smoother on the field than advertised. All of this, he's a great blocking tight end. I mean, that's a smoke screen. I mean, that to me, Sterling is, you're young, so you don't remember this, but the whole Jared Allen, if he becomes a edge rusher, that's great, but he's drafted because he's a great long snapper. No, Jared Wiley being a blocking tight end. I mean, he's a big, strong guy, sure, but that is not what's going to get him paid. And honestly, I mean, yeah, at this point in his career, he probably is faster than Kelsey. He's not as smart as Kelsey. So Kelsey's going to be able to get more open and be able to do more things. But this guy is more Kelsey-like than any of these other guys we're talking about. I mean, Noah Gray, bless his heart, is too short to be Travis Kelce. Irv Smith is too short to be Travis Kelce. They're both nice athletic pieces. And, and you can see how you can absolutely use them to get them open. But if you're talking about spelling Travis Kelce, giving him more time off, and feeling like that, you're not just, changing the playbook and having to go a completely different direction because you don't have a guy with that skill set, Jared Wiley can do it. And he has looked like he belongs on the football field in these OTA practices that we've seen so far.
Before I let you go, I think the final thing that you and I talked about on Friday was Dave Toub and the new kickoff rules. It was shocking how excited Dave Toub, one, sounded, right? I think it was impressive. I mean, that dude, I've never seen a special team coordinator sound so excited. Two, sounds like Justin Reed or even Uzomah might even be the kicker, right? It sounds like there's legit talk about not just Reed, but Uzomah. And this is going to be wide open. It's fluid. What did you take away from Dave Toub in the new special teams, the new kickoffs? Because I thought this was fascinating what Toub was talking about.
Yeah, when you start talking about the kickoff rule for this year, Sterling, I mean, it's kind of like I'm like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. Do you want to talk about kickoff coverage and kickoff rule, or are you just making chit chat? Because I could talk about this for 3 hours, but this rule, I mean, it is, at least in the first half of the season, it is going to be chaos. It's going to be fantastic chaos. I mean, the league may not be prepared for it because I'm pretty convinced that there's going to be a significant increase in scoring in at least the first half of the season, whether it's like that there's like 45 kickoff returns or just teams getting in really good position. And honestly, it might even be, kick teams getting in really good position because they're getting some turnovers off these plays or they're just burying teams deep. I mean, it's going to be hysterical. And I'm only seeing what the Chiefs are doing. There might be 31 other teams doing 31 other different approaches, but Dave Toub told you his kind of secret sauce to this whole thing is that what they want to do, Chiefs want to do, is they want to get the ball on the ground, because that's the one exception to the NFL rule from the XFL, was that the players can all move, the blockers and the tacklers, everybody can move once the ball hits the ground. In the XFL, the ball had to be touched first. So there wasn't a real advantage to, doing anything too tricky. But Dave Toub is a kick guy. He's going to want to get that ball on the ground, and he wants to get the ball to the receiving team in the most difficult situation possible. So he wants them to be moving to the side. He wants them to have their eyes on the ball on the ground rather than their eyes downfield looking to set up their blocks or anything of that nature. That's why Harrison Butker will still be valuable because he can put the ball anywhere in that landing zone that you want it. You want to drop it on the 5-yard line so that it's on the right sideline and it's not going to go out of bounds. Harrison Butker can do that for you. Hey, Justin Reed and Luis Uzomah, they're going to be able to give you some knuckleballs that the other team's not going to be able to field, but they're not going to necessarily control it. So there might be some issues there. I mean, they're getting some work, they're getting some practice, so they'll probably both get better. But I mean, there's still going to probably be some value to having Harrison Butker as your kickoff specialist from time to time. Obviously, having the extra tackler is going to be huge because there's one line of defense. I mean, and if you as a returner are able to get past that line, it's you and the kicker is it. So that's where having Justin Reed could be a huge advantage. But I'm also blown away, with Toub talking about the return side of it too. And, it being more maybe a running back style than a receiver style, because it really looks to me like it's going to be more like a scrimmage play once the ball's in the hands of the returner. So, it's not about finding just hitting a hole and getting upfield as fast as you can like the old days. Now it's going to be, you're going to be trying to set up some plays a little bit more than you've ever done before on kick return. It's going to require a different skill set. There's going to be players that make this team just for kick return and kick coverage that might not have made the team in past years because they bring a different skill set. Returners, I mean, there might be some receivers who return kicks, but hey, there's a reason why they're giving Luis Uzomah all the run right now to see if he can do it, because he's got the right body for it, and he's got the speed, he's got the physicality. I mean, he's kind of the prototype, I think, for what you would want in a returner. It's just whether or not he can pick up football fast enough to be that guy.
Niall Davis punching air right now, not getting the opportunity to do
way ahead of his time.
Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest. Check out chiefsdigest.com, as well as 41 is the Mike, the pod he does with Nick Jacobs. Matt, really do appreciate it, man.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's a lot of fun.
I know. I'm bummed I won't see you Friday. I do want to give a shout out to everyone who hung out with us. If you want to drop us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast, we would really appreciate it. If you'd follow Matt Derrick on the X at Matt Derrick, because I would appreciate it if you would follow him. It means the world to me. I love Matt Derrick. If you would do that, that would be my one wish. Like this video. And until next time, we are out.